God bless you, Fanny, and God bless Robin Hood.
Oh no, oh no. Everyone is doing
Everyone
accents.
is doing accents, which were
Better or worse than Kevin Costner? Like, I mean, come on.
hello, fantasy. It's Cullen from Not My Fantasy. We are still podcasting for Hannah's life to free her from the Sheriff of Nottingham. So today, to help me, I called on two beasts from the north who share the same god.
Wow,
Uh,
okay. There's an intro.
There's an intro. Uh, Callum Sinclair and Michael Lee Richardson of Once Upon a VHS.
Hello.
Hi, and God bless you, Fanny, and God bless Robin Hood.
Oh no, oh no. Everyone is doing
Everyone
accents.
is doing accents, which were
Better or worse than Kevin Costner? Like, I mean, come on.
that was a big part of the reception of the movie. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even notice an accent as I watched this movie. And people were like, "Oh, Costner's accent." I'm like, "Was he doing one? Do I expect British people historically to have accents? I don't
Well,
know."
I think this is the excuse that sometimes gets trotted out is that, yeah, people like medieval people would not have English accents as we know them today. And in
Yeah.
fact, I've heard people saying that, or particularly for Elizabethan dramas, like they would say that their accents would sound more like a Southern US accent than it would
Yeah.
standard or like RP or anything that we might immediately imagine English accents to sound like. So that sometimes comes out as an excuse for, yeah, I'll just do the dialogue however I want to do it. So,
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's better than trying an accent and failing.
hmm.
I can't improv in a British accent. I can improv in a French accent.
Okay,
But in most movies, the French people speak with British accents. I think of
that's
that
it.
Cockney Parisian child in Les Miserables. And I guess.
Oi, mister, you meet that. Oh no, that's the wrong one. But that's
There is a very funny Eddie Izzard, Susie Izzard stand-up bit about this Robin Hood film. Or I think it's about this one, but it's about how Robin Hood is always American. And she does
Yeah.
like a long bit about about the Robin Hood American accent. And yeah, yeah. But
I mean,
we'll get into
we'll
it,
get
I'm
into it. I
sure.
mean, I remember my sibling when they cast Lily James as Cinderella was like, "Isn't Cinderella supposed to be American?" And then they're like, "Wait, no, I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna forget I said that." Yeah. So we're talking about the 1991 classic question mark Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, starring Kevin Costner and his butt double.
and it's butt
Um,
double. It certainly
yes.
is a movie.
It is a movie.
Mhm.
And I also, before we get started, do you want to mention your intro your podcast? Because I have some deep lore about your podcast that I've been waiting to release until
Oh
now.
wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
exciting, exciting.
Yeah, so Once Upon a VHS is an 80s and 90s fantasy podcast hosted by myself and Michael, where we talk about like it's a variety of different movies, but what makes us a little bit different from Not My Fantasy, although there is a bit of crossover, is that we specifically focus in on those two decades, the 80s and 90s, and some trash and some treasures, nostalgia, nightmare fuel, all of this good stuff. And we've had Not My Fantasy on our Princess Bride episode. So if you're a fan of
Yes.
that movie, please do check that episode out and see if there are any others that take your interest as well.
Highly recommend. I'm a longtime listener. And because of that, I know that you guys are actually the true inventors of the holding space for defying gravity meme.
Oh,
Because way back in your Return to Oz episode, you said Callum said something like, "Oh, she's still holding space for Oz," and Michael was like, "What does holding space even mean? Like, say you're in queer spaces without saying you're in queer spaces." And so he says that I was like, "Ha ha ha, that's funny." And then a few months later, we get they're holding space with the lyrics to Defying Gravity. I'm in
We
queer
invented it.
media. Yeah,
We
and I was
invented
like,
it.
you prophesied that moment into existence. And then later Ariana's like, what does that even mean? And you're like, they asked first. Michael asked first.
If they are listening, Cynthia, Ariana, we love you, and you're welcome to hold space. We hold space for you, so it's all
Yeah.
good.
Oh, we certainly do. We certainly do.
Yeah, I've always connected those two, but I've been waiting till now to release that.
Bridge them. Oh, I love
But yeah,
it.
you were on our show, was it 2 years? A year ago? 2 years ago for All of Us Strangers, which was
Mm.
allegedly a fantasy film. But it was a very sad queer film.
Yeah, it was an emotional episode, wasn't it? It was
Yes.
it was pretty full on. So,
Yeah.
but I'm glad that we got to talk about it though. It was quite a nice introduction for us to get all of the heavy stuff out of the way first and foremost, wasn't
Yes,
Yeah.
it?
I don't think we'll be quite as heavy today
No,
with
no.
this little number.
This little number. This little number was directed by Kevin Reynolds, screenplay by Penn Desham and John Watson, starring Kevin Costner as Robin Hood, Morgan Freeman as Azim, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio as Lady Marian, almost Robin Wright. She backed out last
Oh,
minute, almost
here
got
we
her credit
go.
herself. Yeah.
And I
Uh,
think Cary Elwes was offered Robin Hood and he turned it down. And then, of course,
of course,
later would go on
yes,
to be in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
yes.
So it could have
Uh,
been a reunion.
oh, that would have been wild. A Robin Hood with those two. Yeah.
Mm.
Christian Slater, my preferred JD, as Will Scarlet. He has not slept with any couches as far as I know.
I thought you meant like you preferred them over the JDs in the in the
In the
musical
musical,
Heathers, but yeah,
just like
generally,
JD in
yeah.
generals.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Alan Rickman as the Sheriff of Nottingham. Geraldine McGowan as Mortiana. Michael McShane as Friar Tuck. And this is a huge cast, so I'm not gonna list. I listed all these names. I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna spend 20 minutes listing all these people. Sean Connery as King Richard is a big one, but he was not billed because they didn't want people to be waiting for Sean Connery. They're like, we'll just drop him in at
Mhm.
the end. It had a budget of around 48 to 60 million and a box office of 390.5 million. So it did pretty well, but reviews were that it was a slog, it's too serious, and the accents were bad. Um, it was edited apparently because Alan Rickman was too good and was taking the scenes like he was taking the show and they were like, you have to cut it down. And Kevin Costner allegedly used a butt double, perhaps because he didn't want his co-star to see his ass because it had been seen before in Dances with Wolves, or it was more
Right.
likely, I'm guessing, a contract reason. That's what someone brought up, and I'm like, that probably makes sense. But
Ah.
I was kind of expecting to be wowed by this butt because really all I remembered was that he had a butt double because I saw this movie as a kid. I remembered Alan Rickman. I remembered that people saying he had a butt double. And then this butt was just kind of,
It wasn't a notable but
yeah,
it was an
Yeah.
unremarkable but
I think if you're gonna have a butt double, like
go all the
get a
way.
really good one. Get a really good
Yeah.
uh
one. Like I want like
get
a
the
Kim Kardashian moment or
peachiest thing
something.
you could
Yeah.
get on that screen. Yeah.
But I do love
But but
I do love how normal people looked in movies then. I think I've been seeing a lot of discourse around like the very intense beauty standards of the 2020s. And I'm like, wow, Kevin Costner was really just like a man.
just a
Like,
man.
Truly
Yeah.
some guy.
yeah.
Some guy.
And
Which
not even a particularly great actor either.
not a great actor, not charming, not particularly attractive. I would, in my view, not in a conventional
Yeah.
what we would think of a movie star. So it just does sort of boggle my mind that he was such a huge name at this point, like off the back of
Yeah.
Dances with Wolves and all of this kind of stuff that he'd done before and Field of Dreams. And yeah, it's just some guy. on the
Just think.
screen as Robin Hood. Yeah.
Although on the like people looking normal thing, I think this is just what British people look like. Like this is just British people. This is a couple of Americans, and then like every British character actor that's ever been on to come and do their accent work for a couple of hours.
True, true. They're like, okay, we got a village to populate.
Yeah.
Uh, this movie was filmed all over England, including Northumberland, Hadrian's Wall, the cliffs of Dover. People were complaining about how quickly he got from the cliffs to the wall.
Mm.
Um,
I
so,
specifically was complaining about that while we were watching. So Callum has got the Sycamore Gap as his background,
ah,
which is it's a tree. It was RIP was a tree in the middle of these two hills in Northumberland, where I'm from,
mhm.
where like some of the scenes are filmed. And then I think last year or the year before, like during a storm, someone cut it down. And
I
these two
remember
people have
hearing
just
about
been
this.
like, yeah, like they've just been, I think, put in prison for quite a long time. Recently, like these two guys who have been found to have done it. Um, but yeah, it was a big sort of like quite a big deal
Hmm.
in because I was in Northumberland when it happened, and people
Yeah,
were like talking like my mum and my cousins and stuff were all talking about it like someone had died, and like I know it is very sad, but like I don't know,
yeah,
there's other stuff going on in the world.
It's a nice tree, though. It
It's
was.
a
beautiful
Yeah.
beautiful
tree.
tree. But yeah, famously not in Nottingham, Northumberland.
No, I think the reality is like when I reading, I'm like, oh, that's Hadrian's Wall. But like watching the movie, I'm just like, oh, it's a wall somewhere. Like
Yeah.
I don't recognize it as an American. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
no. No, it's just a wall. It's just a wall. But you also don't want to be like that. Like I was complaining while we were watching it, like being from Northumberland, because sometimes you like to do that. But like I've watched stuff like if you watch something set in Glasgow or Edinburgh or something with someone from one of these cities, it's always like that's not around that corner. That's actually 3 miles away in the other direction. It's like, no,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's fine.
It's the
that's
magic
He's
of the movies. Yeah.
yeah, there's a witch in this, lives in the basement. It's
yeah.
fine.
That's me with born and raised in South Detroit because South
Mm.
Detroit is Windsor, Canada. It's a city without a South. It's like
Uh,
because of the way the geography works. I'm like that there's no one ever says, "Oh, I'm from South Detroit." That's not how it goes. But who really cares? I did read, and we'll talk about Marion quite a bit, but I read a comparison of this Marion to the 1938 Errol Flynn, Olivia de Havilland Marion in the Boston Public Library when I was working on a paper in grad school, and I had to like
Oh.
go check out the book, but I couldn't take it from the library. I had to like read it in a special little like chamber, and
Oh,
I was like,
yes.
wow, I'm a scholar. So that is the one thing I read in grad school. I really do remember because there was so much drama. But it was basically like this Marion is more of a damsel than the one in the 30s. And I was like, I don't know if I 100% agree. I'll have to rewatch Errol's Robin Hood. Spoilers for the podcast, but I have some thoughts. But
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to rewatching that because I did see the Errol Flynn version as a kid, and I was at the time I was like, oh yeah, okay, Robin Hood. I
yeah,
wasn't that interested, but I watched some clips of it again today when preparing
yeah,
for this podcast, and it looks great. It looks really fun. The
yeah,
Technicolor is
it's
gorgeous.
gorgeous.
So I'm like, yeah, it's very different. And I guess that's one of the things about Robin Hood as well, is that you can get quite tonally different treatments of this. It's like quite a specific story.
Yeah.
And like you've got all of these elements that sort of get moved in and out of different adaptations, but there have been such tonally different takes on it through the years.
I th
Uh,
I think you can feel the ghost of that Errol Flynn film in the
Yeah.
background of this film at all times. Like this film's whole modus operandi feels like let's not be the Errol Flynn version of it,
Yes.
which is why
mhm.
you get like this weird juxtaposition of like normcore Robin Hood just some guy, Kevin
Yeah.
Costner, and then like mad action movie
Hmm.
sequences, which I really appreciate, but it creates quite a strange film in places.
And that was the director's intended goal, was to be explicitly different from the Errol Flynn Robin Hood, which in my opinion, I do consider like the peak Robin Hood film. And we have already covered a lot of like we covered the Disney Robin Hood, we covered the Taron Egerton Robin Hood, very tonally different takes on this same tale.
The Taron Egerton one, I listened to your podcast of that, and I was just I have no recollection of this film. As someone who is engaged in this kind of film and
Yeah.
like reads a lot of film stuff, not a single, and I'm still not sure that it exists.
It's a
Yeah.
And that's
psyop. Yeah, it didn't
No
actually
impact.
happen. We've
like
all
just
been
one
gaslit.
long,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it was
Yeah.
one long not my fantasy improv bit
Yeah.
to
This movie was nominated for one Oscar for original song for the Bryan Adams "Everything I Do It For You."
Oh,
Uh,
which was inescapable, particularly in the UK. It was like number one for 16 weeks in the UK singles chart,
it's
16 consecutive weeks, and it was just
It's still the
everywhere.
longest running number one we've ever had in the
really?
Is
UK.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Brightside
Um,
didn't dethrone it?
Mr. Brightside is the longest song to be in the charts. I think that song charted and is still in the charts
Yeah.
from like whenever it came
Wow.
out.
Like
But
2004 or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, I have to say the Brandy version of Everything I Do It For You is the superior version. Sorry to Brian Adams.
That makes
Yes.
sense.
The vocal Bible. It has this bass line, the Brandy version, it's like bong bong that starts in the second verse, and it's just like chef's kiss.
When we were watching this film, just on the song of it all, when we were watching this film, I realized that everything I remember about this Robin Hood is either from that the sequence at the end, which is my favorite bit, like the sort of big fight and the
Speech,
Yeah.
hanging
yeah.
and the all that stuff, or is from the Bryan Adams music video. Like I was waiting for him to turn up at some point singing in a forest.
He's Alan Adale. Yeah. Kevin Costner did win a Razzie, and Christian Slater was nominated, but Alan Rickman won a British Academy Film Award for Best Supporting Actor, as
And
he should.
as he should. And I remember like his acceptance speech, he said something along the lines of clearly subtlety isn't everything.
Ah,
Which,
you've got an Alan Rickman as well.
you know, an
Everyone is doing
impersonation for
voices.
everyone is doing voices here. But yeah, Alan Rickman, a highlight of this, playing this panto style. Like this is
Yeah.
full on pantomime villain, Sheriff of Nottingham, and
And
I love it.
from my childhood, that's mainly what I remember is the why with a spoon because it's dull. Like that's all
And
I
and cancel Christmas.
I
Like it's
cancel Christmas.
so stupid. It's so good. Apparently a lot of this was improvised as well. Like his
His his villainy.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, he really is the jewel of the film. But before we get into the details of this film, we're gonna do our lore section. So I've been reading a book actually by this film's historical consultant, J.C.
Ooh.
Holt, Robin Hood. Let's see if I can get. Oh wow, it'll appear. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Um, and I went to a library. But it's been super interesting because I didn't know much about the history of Robin Hood aside from his kind of evolution in film.
Mhm.
And kind of checking in with like the all these characters and kind of how they go in and out. So we've talked Robin Hood. His origin is always nebulous. He could be a noble, a yeoman, and just an outlaw. He's got a main man, Little John, and then his kind of league of the merry men kind of rotates. We have Much the Miller's son, Will Scarlet. Is he often a traitor? I don't see that in a lot of myths, but I feel like he is in a lot of movies, or I associate that name with something. And then Friar
Yeah.
Tuck, the priest who likes to party. He's got Alan Adale. a minstrel, and his ops are like the Sheriff of Nottingham, Guy of Gisborne, and then he has a girlfriend named Marion, and then it's often set in the Plantagenet era of, King Richard and Prince John. Um, but Robin Hood was an incredibly popular medieval legend, but not often one people would write down until later. So in our previous episode, we were talking about the Taron Egerton Robin Hood. We went over some of the oldest versions of Robin Hood, which are like kind of later half of the 1400s, earliest half of the 1500s. But what's interesting from those is while a lot of the themes like disguise and fighting the sheriff and being pardoned by the king and, robbing people, helping people. That's all there, but a lot of things are not there. Like the general concept of rob from the rich to feed the poor, not there.
Mm,
Maid Marian, not there. Friar Tuck, pretty rarely. So this episode, I want to talk about what was added in the following centuries after these kind of initial first few ballads. This book talks a lot about like the trying to trace if he was real. I don't really care. My stance is kind of probably something was the base of this, but in the same way, like I would say, like Cinderella is real. Like probably some cave woman, escaped her shitty family, and like, oh, there were such bitches. Like good for her. Like, and then that became Cinderella. Like that's kind of like someone probably stuck it to the man, and then that became Robin Hood.
yeah.
Uh, but he pulls all these different outlaws with similar stories. Like Hereward the Wake, Eustace the Monk, and Fulk Fitzwarren and Adam Bell. And these were sometimes predecessors or contemporaries of Robin Hood that were slowly absorbed into his mythos. But their main similarity was that they did crime and were pardoned by the king at some point. But they feature something that Robin Hood didn't, which is a rebellion at some kind of injustice, whether it's they were Saxon and the Normans killed their family, their inheritance was taken away unjustly, they were upset at some injustice. But Robin Hood
Mm,
typically had no origin story, he just had always had been an outlaw. But these fools have some kind of origin, and so perhaps that's how Robin Hood slowly got an origin story, was from kind of sucking up all these other like lesser outlaw stories.
mhm.
And but a big aspect was the May Games. Uh, so these were these festivals of theater and pageantry where the youth would collect fresh flowers and bring them and decorate the town. They were railed against first by bishops and then my personal nemesis, the Puritan religion.
Hmm.
Uh,
Because it
eh,
all sounds a little bit pagan, these kinds of
yeah,
festivities. Yeah.
It sounds
yeah,
fun. I'm
yeah,
in.
yeah. I'm like, sign me up. So he becomes a stock character in this festival across England and Scotland. Oh, and another other stock characters of the May festival was the Queen of May and the Friar or the Abbot of Unreason. So the partying friar and like the Queen of the festival. So eventually by 1555, Scottish Parliament banned all depictions of Robin Hood, Little John, the Abbot of Unreason, and the Queen of May in these festivals
Shocking.
because yeah, too scandalous, too pagan. So we see that they've become kind of they became shared mascots of this holiday. There's a lot of, again, with folklore, there's a lot of things kind of intertwining. So there's also this
Mm,
French play from 1283 called Robin and Marian, where a shepherdess Marian resists a knight to stay true to her lover Robin. And this play eventually makes its way to England. But these are unrelated to Robin Hood. These are two separate people named Robin and Marian. And in 1376, they are referenced in other works as separate characters honored in the Spring Festival. So kind of like Santa Claus and Frosty the Snowman, like same holiday,
okay.
but not necessarily
Yeah,
connected, or
related.
like
Yeah.
Jesus and the Easter Bunny, like
Hmm.
same thing, but they don't really have a shared story. But by this, throughout the 16th century, they become shipped, essentially. They become the king and queen of the festival, and they combine into this shared cinematic universe.
Right. See, I'd never considered like the idea of the May Queen being part of Marion, like
Yeah.
that aspect of it. And like you're
Mm,
saying, just as Robin as a figure kind of like collected all of these other aspects of different stories into becoming this folk hero that like absorbed all of that. I hadn't really considered Marion as a character that had, yeah, that May Queen basis, along with, like you're saying, this French play and all of these other elements,
Yeah.
because I would have thought that Marion was like drawn from some kind of historical figure, but yeah, it just
Yeah.
seems like it's this kind of weird amalgamation of different elements.
And in so many of the old ballads, he kept referencing, oh, the Virgin Mary will give me strength, and, giving him the strength to help like deface corpses and stuff. And so that like combines too with, okay, he's associated with Mary. And that was new to me because when we started this series, I was like, of all the kind of like folklore fairy tale heroines, Marion is like the most nebulous because
Mm.
she's like the original like
Mm.
Mary Jane, kind of like the superhero's girlfriend type. Like she's defined by who her partner is in a way like Red Riding Hood or Cinderella or Snow White. Like these other characters have things that at least happen to them that kind of make them who they are. But like, who's Marion? What's her deal?
It does feel like with Marion, it does feel like that is often because we've watched a few of these, like watching along with yourself, and then I've encountered some Robin Hood stuff recently as
Uh,
well. And it does feel like with Marion, that nebulousness affects the way she's portrayed on screen. It feels like people keep trying to make her a girl boss, but she resists it because there's not necessarily enough girl there to
yeah.
be the boss. Like,
Yeah. Well, read to filth, but
yeah,
but
sorry.
kind of accurate. Yeah, there's this movie especially, and its attempt to girl bossify her, but then kind of gives up. Uh,
Mm.
she's just she's kind of a blank slate as a character goes. And I think people look at a lot of folklore characters and are like, oh, they're a blank slate. But I'm like, by folklore standards, I think Marion is especially a
Hmm.
blank slate.
Hmm.
Uh, but there is some, you mentioned a historical character that she's connected to. And so there is some of that. So how does like the Crusades and Richard and John Plantagenet, how do they come into it? There was in the old ballads, they're like helping this knight who's been gone. And so there's an implication of crusade or pilgrimage, but it's implied. Like they don't state anything about the Crusades.
Okay.
But this guy, Anthony Mundy, wrote two plays, The Death of Robin, Earl of Huntington, and The Downfall of Robin, Earl of Huntington, around 1598. And these specifically made him a nobleman and set during the reign of Richard the Lionheart. And they combined Maid Marian with a woman named Matilda, the daughter of Rob Fitzwalter, who, according to legend and stage, was accosted by Prince John. And actually, this narrative of like her resisting John's advances takes up most of the play. Like Robin dies fairly early on, and then it's like this story. So in this
Interesting.
one, she's combined with Matilda.
Okay. Okay. So there you go.
There's someone historical, I guess, and this is like establishing in the canon that Robin is a nobleman, as opposed to just like a guy in the woods.
The idea of Robin Hood, like as much as she doesn't necessarily have that much to her, the idea of him without her is strange to me. Like, because what's he fighting for? Like,
Yeah,
because that all of the adaptations, he's stealing from the rich to give to the poor and stuff like that. But it's also like because his girlfriend's been sort
yeah,
of
Everything
taken.
he does
Everything
it
he does it,
for
he does
her.
it for
Yeah.
yeah.
her.
Well, that's what's crazy is, Robin Hood starts out without specifically robbing the rich to give to the poor and without Maid
Hmm.
Marian. So at what point
Wild.
does he kind of become who we associate? There's also these, they called them garlands, these kind of like quick reprints and like stories and ballads throughout the after post printing press, post increase in literacy. They're cranking these out. And
Mm.
so we get a lot more Robin Hood stories, but they're all kind of derivative of these oldest ballads. But he'll fight, he'll disguise, he beefs with clergy, he fights other outlaws. Will Scarlet's there. He's maybe the son of a noble in some. There's also I call her that bitch Clorinda. Clorinda, Queen of the Shepherds. She tries to take Marion's place. In some version, it's like she's Robin's girlfriend, Clorinda, and is Robin's wife. but she could not compete with the cultural dominance of Marion. So bye,
Ah.
Corinda.
I love Clorinda as a name. She's fun.
We need an adaptation with her in there. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Make them fight.
So it's funny you should mention this because there are speaking of the different iterations of Robin Hood, there are two important UK TV series that I just want to mention, if that's okay just
Yeah.
now. So first up was this ITV Showtime co-production called Robin of Sherwood, which was in the mid 80s, 1984 it started, and that was hugely, hugely influential on all of the Robin Hood media that came after it. And it really lays the groundwork for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves as well. It's the first time that like a media adaptation of Robin Hood ditched all the kind of Errol Flynn adjacent green tights, feather hat type stuff
Yeah.
and went for something that was a little bit more grounded and like an attempt to reflect some historical accuracy. But it also worked in some more pagan elements and like mystical and mythological elements. And there were sorcerers and witches and demons that were in Robin of Sherwood. So again, that's an element that Robin Hood Prince of Thieves has kind of taken. But it also introduces a Saracen character.
Yes.
So
Oh,
this Saracen member of the Merry Men, and in Robin of Sherwood, it's a character called Nasir, and that, of course, has parallels with Azim, who would come in to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. So, but generally, the tone and aesthetic of Robin of Sherwood is something that has really influenced a lot of what has come since, but it's very, very apparent in Prince of Thieves.
It's the one that does the Robin Hood as like a moniker, as like a
Hmm.
because like spoiler alert for
yeah.
a show that was made in the 80s. Um at the end of the second series, Robin Hood dies and they get a new Robin Hood, who I think is played by like Sean Connery's son
Yes.
or
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Jason
yeah.
Connery, yeah.
Um which I just think is quite interesting, like a fun part of that mythology that people don't play
Yeah.
with very much. Like the idea of Robin Hood building the brand is interesting to me, and I feel like not enough adaptations do that.
Yeah, the way sometimes there'll be a new Batman or the Dread
Mm,
Pirate Roberts or
Yeah,
but
taking
the
on the mantle. Hmm.
but introducing the Saracen character is really interesting because that progresses even to the Taron Egerton version where now Little
Hmm.
John is kind of like playing dual of those roles. You it's become part of like the film lore of Robin Hood, which
Yes.
I think Robin Hood is interesting because I knew so much. Okay, well, this is kind of how the story evolves through film, and I had so little understanding of any kind of the folkloric origins. I had read like the Howard Pyle, I think, as a kid, and had read a couple
Hmm.
of versions, but nothing like textual, and it is harder to trace.
Hmm.
And in this Clorinda, like the Garland era, they're also they free London from Turks and giants.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Okay.
we meet Alan Adale finally. He shows up where Alan's bride is being forced to marry an older knight, and they save her and they have a cute forest wedding. And there's a version with Will Scarlet, that's basically the same version, the same story. They just swap them out. But Little John says the vows disguised in the bishop's hat. So very, very similar to the end of this movie in a way.
Listen, they love a disguise. Any excuse to dress up. It's just get in the
Yeah.
guiche, whatever the
some
weather.
guys are just like that though. Some guys just love a costume.
I'm one of them. I love a costume.
You
Well,
would have got on well with Robin Hood, I
yeah.
think.
Well, so much of this of Robin's story was either in ballads or in plays, and like a disguise is very fun for a play because it's like,
Hmm.
oh, we know he's in disguise, but they don't. Very interactive. There's also an evolution of various stories where he duels someone and loses and offers to be like, you should join the band, which eventually kind of becomes the canon Little John story. Weapons evolve from swords to quarterstaffs because the class of the audience increases. And this book
Hmm.
gave like stats of how many people died of quarterstaff accidents and quarterstaff fights. And I was like, wow. One of these, Robin fights Marion, who's disguised as a page. And I'm like,
Oh.
oh. And but eventually these recycled ballads form a loose canon. I'm using Superman as an example because I saw that movie last weekend. But I realized when I saw Superman, I had never seen another Superman movie, but I knew the origin story because someone was like, "Oh, do they explain the origin story?" I'm like, "No, but like we all know it." And it's
Yeah,
kind of
by
like,
osmosis. You do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's just part of the wallpaper. Like everybody has like a sense at least of Smallville and all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So Robin Hood kind of develops kind of like a loose canon, not like an official series of events, but like stuff people sort of recognize and know. And also among this is the name Locksley, whether it's his birthplace or where he's from, the name Locksley joins. And Nottingham and Sherwood become his central locations as opposed to like Barnesdale, because there was an increasing tourism market of people like visiting Robin Hood sites, like a grave, a well, his favorite chair. And Nottingham was a more easily commercialized town than Barnesdale. So capitalism, tourism, part of the Robin Hood story.
Nottingham just muscling in
The
Yeah.
original
and just saying,
Disneyland, I
yeah.
think. Not again.
Yeah. Uh, and but where about what about robbing the rich to give to the poor? Because that's kind of the first thing you would say about Robin Hood, but he didn't really have that for a very long time. And someone described the authors in the story of Robin Hood, someone, J.C. Holt, who wrote this book, as going from Jacobite to Jacobin, starting as like he was often associated with like this the Bonnie Prince Charlie, like the Charleses and the Stuarts, and then eventually becomes like a social radical.
Mhm.
Um, and
So
he,
the politics sort of shifts in the telling of the story, yeah.
yeah, that he grows with us. So he initially still would fight and rob other poor people, but eventually stories of him showing Christian charity became more common, where he would less about like a social thing and more just like, oh, it's good to give to those in need. And eventually the idea that he was a social rebel joined the tale, but again, very modern. And it was more just like he hated the law because, sheriffs suck, they're annoying. And so he represented like stick it to the man, but in a very like general sense.
Generic, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But this perhaps starts with the May Games because when the church wardens were running them, they were often funding the costumes. So like you see in the church budgets, like this much for Marion's dress. And the revelers who would just dress as these characters would often aggressively collect money from people, especially the rich, and be like, donate, donate, donate. Uh, and it was the author suggests that, well, okay, the church was responsible for like the care of the poor, the orphans, the widows, but also this money was being used for like the linens and whatever they needed, the vestments,
Hmm.
the maintenance of the church. But it's more marketable to be like give to the poor. And
Yeah.
J.C. Holt suggests that rob from the rich to give to the poor was some church warden's clever marketing phrase that just kind of took off. And I'm like, that's kind of iconic.
Yeah, sort of giving back to the community in a way, like in a
Yeah.
very five times removed way.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
I like it.
it was the closest thing to like their social services, I guess. But I
Yeah.
love that some guy just came up with the phrase and it
Rob from
joined the
the rich,
canon.
give to the
It's
poor,
like a
get it on a bumper sticker.
GoFundMe, a
Yeah.
medieval GoFundMe. They're
Medieval
running a
GoFundMe.
campaign.
Yeah. Brother Jeff really took off with that one. The last thing I want to mention is so Robin as a Saxon versus the Normans, which comes into some adaptations. That was a Sir Walter Scott and Ivanhoe edition. Because by the era of Richard the Lionheart, the Plantagenets, there may have been a class distinction between Saxons and Normans, but they were hardly like two distinct racial groups at this point
Okay.
in history. So that's definitely a later invention. Um, just throwing that out there. Someone who read Ivanhoe twice as a kid, once during my brother's college graduation, but just a little fun
Ivan
fact.
hoeing it up. Yeah.
Ivanhoeing it up. Yeah.
Glad you mentioned that.
That the OG love triangle, he was a bit of a hoe. So
There you
let's
go.
let's talk about this movie, which happens much later in the evolution of Robin Hood, but it's incredibly 90s, I think, in its social politics in
Very
that
much so.
it's like, wow, like we're not racist, we're not sexist. Science, we love it. Uh
We embrace other cultures, like yeah, where it's taking baby steps, I suppose.
yeah, and you're like, okay, this is good, but it is like in some ways it does feel very preachy in that way, and but the
Mhm.
narrative of the film isn't really about it, so it just kind of here's a moment, and you're like, okay, this is very like the 90s. There's a lot of kind of noble savage going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and my
It's
thing, go
sorry.
ahead.
It doesn't start off how one would expect a Robin Hood film to start.
No.
Like from the setting, we're straight in to something very, very different from what we might expect from a Robin Hood film. And there are some interesting choices in this film, but I don't think it entirely pulls it off. Like that is the recurring thing about this film, I would say, that we're right in with Jerusalem
Yeah.
and Robin Hood as a big wild-haired captive at this point.
Yeah, we also get the shot of a series of events with his dad looking for him,
Mm,
and he's kind
hmm.
of tricked to into being attacked by the Klan or the sheriff and his white-robed men that never appear in white robes again.
Yeah, but we
Oh
don't actually
yeah.
see that we don't actually see anything happening. It's just them arriving there, and it cuts away from what would be the most dramatically satisfying part of
God.
that scene. So,
They're like,
Now that
join
you
us.
I feel like I'm remembering a dream. They never do come back to that ever. And is it Brian Blessed, his dad? Is that
it's
Yes.
Brian Blessed, yeah.
Yeah.
yes, yes. Um no, I mean the wildest part of that whole thing, that whole opening sequence for me was seeing Morgan Freeman young
Yeah.
younger. I've always think of him as just an old guy that he is now. But
Yeah.
seeing him at this stage was a delight. But yeah, I think there's some really like chewy stuff around race and representation and religion in this, which I
Yeah.
think is sort of I think it's sort of interesting in a throwing the sheet over the ghost kind of way. Like I think we needed this kind of representation
Yeah.
to try and maybe not get it all the way right in order to get more interesting stuff later on down the line. Is yeah. I think we
Yeah.
always have to sort of take film in the context it was made in. Is yeah.
Yes. I mean, I wrote Baby's First Islam in it in my
Yes,
notes. And it's like,
yes.
but if you think about like where even Islam was, I was a kid when 9/11 happened in the US, and like I remember the start of the war in Iraq, and like the way people talked about Islam then between when I was like in college and I would meet people who were Muslim, and I didn't even think, oh, they're part of something scary, but growing up it was like, oh, those are scary people, right? Those are bad people. So and I grew up in a very conservative background, obviously, but if you think of the 90s, there's people had even less exposure to Islam than they do now. So they were like really kind of like explaining what this religion was to a lot of people. And it does really fall into some noble savage stuff. But again, it's like you do kind of have to start there because this is, right around also Dances with Wolves. And I think the 90s and the 90s view of racism was like, wow, these people are so much better than us. We shouldn't have killed them. And really it just needs to be, you shouldn't just kill people and take their stuff. Like that's just wrong. It doesn't matter if are people, they're good, they're bad, they're whatever, but
No.
like you just shouldn't genocide them.
Yeah.
Uh
Jumping ahead a little
yeah.
bit, but on this theme though, I thought it was quite interesting that they set up this particular dynamic between Azim and Friar Tuck. That Friar Tuck is calling Azim all the names under the sun and
Yeah.
doesn't come off well, Friar Tuck. But then
No.
his mind is magically changed when Azim kind of predicts that the baby's in the breech position and delivers the baby by C-section
Yeah.
by magically divining it, which again, chewy stuff there. But yeah, I just thought that the tweak to Friar Tuck's characterization from being what, my association with Friar Tuck is like just a kind of jolly jolly
Yeah.
guy, not really having any rivalry or any particular tension with anybody, to having this quite fractious relationship with Azim was a
Yes.
choice.
And while we're there, I do generally I'm trying through this whole series to be like, who cares about historical accuracy? Because like Robin Hood is a legend, it's not supposed to be historical. But in this one, I'm like, I get what we're trying to do here, but the reality is like Marion would have probably known how to like help a woman give birth because like they would go into confinement, like noble women, and like women helped each other. Like they knew what to do, and it was really like yes, childbirth was dangerous and a lot of people still died, but it got worse when they started introducing like male doctors and then the men were in charge and that was fashionable and they just didn't know what to do the same way midwives and like women knew what to do. So I'm like, there would be like several women that would already like be on this, but we're trying to be like, oh, these people have more knowledge, like because
Mhm.
in general, the Muslim world was more advanced scientifically at this time. So they're really trying to hammer that point home. So it's like, oh, obviously he knows how to give birth, but at the end of the day, it is still like, oh yeah, a man knows how to do this, and none of the women
Right.
in all of medieval England know what, this pregnancy, how it would work. And you're like, okay, like
I think that also leads to the very funny sequence with the telescope, which I loved.
I did love
Like
that.
like towards the end of the film when um he kind of gives Robin the telescope and Robin looks through it and like tries to shoot the guy he's
He like thinks
who's
they're
coming towards.
right there.
Yeah, he doesn't know how it works. I love it. I love it. Because if you had never used a telescope, why would you know how it
Yeah.
worked? It was beautiful.
He's
That's
like, I can't
beautiful.
believe you idiots ever took Jerusalem. Which I do love because that is the historical way that I think a lot of the Muslim world viewed the Crusades was, oh, these idiots coming in, not knowing what they were doing. Um, but it kind of, yeah, the beginning of the movie, he saves Azim with his, his English courage. And he
Oh,
also saves.
I groaned out loud at that line. This is English courage, in an American accent.
He also saves his friend Peter, but he gets shot, and Peter's like, "Look after my sister," and he dies. So they Azim and Robin escape, but Azim is like, "I'm gonna follow you. I owe you my life," and Robin is like, "I don't need it," and he's like, "You do. You need someone who knows how to get out of here." And I'm like, "Why are you dumb? Why are you trying to lose someone who's trying to help you escape?" Uh,
Ah, Robin.
yeah. And
Just
they discussed that it later that it's that Azim's kind of in exile because he loved a woman, and she was worth dying for. Yasmin, everything he does it for her. Um, and that's kind of how they sort of bond. But they arrive back in England, and he's gonna try and have him Azim kidnapped and sent back to North Africa because they describe him as a Moor. And then he's like, "Nope, you can't kidnap me." And he's like, "Well, I gotta try." And they wander to Hadrian's Wall, and he casually mentions drugging women with mistletoe.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
not cute,
oh,
Robin.
the
It was a different
90s.
time.
Yeah. And I think it was the director said he wanted a story where he was a spoiled rich guy that like learned how to have social consciousness, and I think that's what we're trying to get from here. But I was like, I literally think, okay, he's kind of charming, and then he just threw that line out there. I'm like, oh, uh,
Ah, yeah, I wasn't charmed at any point, I have to
yeah,
say, by this Robin. But yeah, I can sort of see the intentions behind some of the choices here. It's just that they don't stick the landings on so many occasions throughout this.
I think it's that Errol Flynn thing again, though, isn't it? It's like I think they're doing so much to ground Robin and make
yeah,
him not Errol Flynn that he's kind of just he sort of flickers between being bland and being an asshole. Like he's just
yeah.
sort of
Mhm.
unpleasant.
This brings me to something if you'll indulge me in another quick tangent about
I
UK
love it.
TV.
Yes, let's go.
And this is something that I shared with you as well, Cullen. So my first entry point to the whole Robin Hood mythos, because I hadn't seen the Disney Robin Hood. I don't know if it was the same for you, Michael, because I'm sure it was in the Disney Vault at this stage. I don't think it
Mm.
was widely available, the Disney Robin Hood.
I had definitely seen it. I didn't have the same feelings about it that it didn't awaken me what it awoke in other
Yeah.
people, but I remember liking it.
But before I saw the Disney Robin Hood, there was a children's BBC sitcom called Maid Marian and Her Merry Men, which was kind of like a parody of Robin of Sherwood. And this actually, it was before. I'm sure it was before Prince of Thieves came out, so it was more in reaction to that. But we got the reruns when we were growing up, so it had a similar tone as Blackadder, and it had a lot of Blackadder in its DNA. It had some of the writing staff, I'm sure, were over that. But basically, the concept of it was that Robin was pretty much a useless himbo, and he was like the face of the Merry Men, but Marion was the real driving force, and she was the brains of the operation, and she was the actual leader. But she kind of let Robin sort of take the fall for it, but also take all the glory. It's a very silly, very wacky show. It's live action, but it had these animated credits with a sort of gospel style theme song, which is amazing, and people should
Amazing
look that
theme
up.
song.
Banger of a theme song. And they also had a Pancake Day episode with another catchy
This
song in
is
it.
British culture. This is
That's Fat
British
Tuesday,
culture.
Pancake Day. It's
Yeah,
Mardi
yeah, yeah,
Gras.
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that version of Marion is a great character, but just kind of this idea that she she was this woman, and this was not a pretty cleaned up Marion. She had kind of matted hair, and she always had kind of smudges of dirt on her face, and she was like quite grounded and practical. And I always loved that iteration of Marion, and she was just a really fun character. And that's what this movie, Prince of Thieves, also made me think of, almost that Robin maybe wasn't quite the paragon of all these values
Yeah.
that were sort of associated, but like was kind of taking the credit for the work of the Merry Men behind him. And to an extent, you've got an element of that with Azim and
Yeah.
with like some of the Merry Men in this film, even.
Mm.
So I just thought that was kind of a bit of a funny
You need
parallel.
a white guy to be like the face of
Yeah,
it, just like
kind of,
trot
yeah.
him out. Yeah. It definitely. Yeah. But yeah, even the mistletoe thing. Like I thought he meant,
Hmm.
oh, I used to like put it up and then girls would have to kiss me, like the Christmas thing. They're like, no, I'm drugging them. I'm like, oh, you went from
Ugh,
like a little annoying to like, ooh.
that's where
Uh,
we were going. Yeah.
but he does have his save the cat, as in saves a little boy from the sheriff's men moment, who's being chased by the sheriff and his dogs, and he's like, 10 guys for one little kid. And they're like, oh, he's poaching deer, which was a big part of the Robin Hood legend, like poaching the king's deer. Um, and he's like, well, this is my land. I'm Loxley. And they're like, ooh, is it your
Oh,
land? But he shoots them, beats them all up. But Azim is busy praying and can't help him. And he's like, you can't stop my life debt, which we, I had a friend, my friend in college one time, he was praying in his room and we were just trying to like get him to hang out. And we were like banging on the door, like, Omar, Omar, Omar. And then eventually was like, dude, I was praying. And we're like, oh, sorry. So, but we
give me
weren't
time.
dying. We were just dramatic.
Listen, and if Robin needed to prove like the whole Locksley thing, there's a lovely portrait of him in a little lad who loves berries and cream wig on the
Yes.
wall, and that I
I love her little bob. I think she's so
fell off the
cute.
sofa when I saw that portrait. I mean, come along.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh, yes. The
Is
portrait
this
took me out.
is the little boy that he saves? Is that John's son?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's John's
That
son.
does. Yes.
He comes.
I have to say I could not keep track of this boy. This there could have been 10 little boys in this, there could have been only one, and I could not keep track of it. But the reunion at the end with like John and his wife and the little
Yeah.
boy, I found genuinely moving, but in a way where it's like, do we know him? Do we? Who is this guy?
There are a lot of characters. There's a lot going on.
Yes, yes.
But in a way, I like it in that it feels so like the past two Robin Hoods I watched felt very small, and this one felt very like big and epic,
Mm,
which is what I
mm.
do want from a Robin Hood. But he comes to his manor, and it's in shambles. He finds his friend, his servant Duncan. He's been blinded. His dad was flayed for, I think, did done
Is it?
something to his corpse.
Is his
For
dad in the like cage thing?
Yeah. He's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
floating in a cage. It's a very haunted house. But he was for killed for being a devil worshiper, and his lands were seized. So he buries him, and he has this cross that's like his father's cross. So that's like Robin Hood. It's his like little kind of token. Uh, and the guy he fought earlier is Gisborne, who's the sheriff's cousin, and he's like, Sheriff Robin of Locksley is back.
In
Uh,
a kind of Christian Bale Batman voice throughout the whole thing for no
oh, his
no
kind of
real
like
dis it's a real kind of like gruff like that can't be good for your voice, babe. Come on. Like
yeah.
just talk normal.
And the sheriff goes to consult his mother, helper, whatever, Mortiana.
Oh, here we go.
Mortiana, she is the queen. I love her, obviously. But so apparently there's like I don't know if it's a director's cut or like there's a version of this that has
Yeah.
10 extra minutes in it
Yes.
where they reveal that Mortiana is his mother, like more
Yeah.
clearly. Um, but in the version we watched, that wasn't the case,
No.
which is quite confusing. I absolutely love, and I think it's intentional. The uh Alan Rickman coming down
The
the
Sheriff of
spiral
Nottingham.
staircase, the sheriff from Nottingham, coming
Yeah.
down the spiral staircase to the basement where he keeps his witch mother, is like it's the Snow White evil queen
Yeah, he
sequence.
does
Like
the
it
cape
feels like the
swoosh.
cape
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. And then she is very sort of old hag. This very sort of Disney haunted house, like fucking dry ice everywhere. She's putting frogs into eggs. She's reading ruins. It's
You-
obviously love it. The best bit.
oh, you know who she reminds me of is the way they played the hags in the BBC Narnia.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Like very just like,
Very,
ooh, yeah.
very that slash Grandma Adams.
Yes.
But I love the way that she's introduced is like she's looking through a glory hole with her Party City white contact lens in, and you just
Yeah.
get the close up of her eye leading in, and then yeah, she's cracking this egg and it's full of blood, and she's mixing it with some dominoes, like do you know what I mean, or like runes, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Same
it's
thing.
just
Yeah.
yeah. And she's got this wild laser light, right? Did you notice that? There's like this shaft of light that's coming into the dungeon, which is clearly like a laser that's been pointed so that the dry ice like smoke is swirling through it. It feels like it takes a real tonal shift with the Sheriff of Nottingham and Mortiana
Yeah.
stuff. It's like,
Like
oh, this is a different film.
he's in a different film. He's maybe in The Princess Bride sometimes,
Yeah.
Alan Rickman in this.
Mm.
Like it's so big. The performance is so big. I love it. And also in my notes I have put like was Alan Rickman hot? Question
Yeah. He was
mark,
kind of
which is a
hot.
He was
big
hot. He was hot.
question.
Yeah. His robes, the way they kind of like draped off him. I mean, he was treating his
Mm,
harem of women pretty
oh God,
badly,
yes.
but
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, his big swooping cape, and she's just their Panto is a good comparison because they're just like hamming it up around. And she's I think in my notes I wrote, I'm a witch and we're doomed. Like she's like, I'm a witch. If Loxley and she calls him the painted man, basically saying the
Yes.
colored man, they're gonna come, they're gonna kill us. She's shrieking. So she's like, you gotta stop him. And so he's like, okay. So they send his men out looking for him, but Robin has gone to Marion to offer his protection. and they do this kind of bait and switch where her maid Rebecca comes out and is like, "I'm Marion," and he's like, "Ooh, you're ugly now," but I'm not saying it. And then she fights him as she's a girl boss warrior, but that's a one-time thing. She's like, I fight once,
Yeah.
and
And as soon as like that candle comes into the equation and she gets a little bit of heat on her gloved hand, it's like, oh no, all bets are off. She
yeah,
does kick him in the balls.
she does.
We get that moment. But yeah,
As yeah,
that whole bait and switch situation, another like, oh, did we have to do this? Like
I
yeah.
did, I like Rebecca though. She's cool.
I like Rebecca. Yeah,
But her kicking him in the balls thing feels very 90s as well.
yes,
Like it feels like there's a lot of like it's just such an odd because we don't make films the way we made them
yeah,
then. It's this big blockbuster thing that has these big broad strokes in the middle of this quite sort of grounded romantic film. Like there's a witch in the basement, which
yeah. Which is why I think I kind of at the end of the day, like times I'm like, is this bad? But I'm like, I think I just love it. I don't know. It's
No, I
just
like it. I like it.
because
I think
it's
actually, if you look at any film and you go, how could I improve this? You have to say, I could put a witch in the
yeah.
basement.
Honestly, I'd like a lot of movies more. A lot of
Mm.
movies more if there was just a Witch of the Basement. I think, yeah, I just like that it is big and sweeping and it's so different than the kind of blockbusters we have now. Um, and I do appreciate it, but it is weird, this intro, but it's fun, I guess. But we establish who Maid Marian is in this, and that she's Richard's niece.
Mhm.
She's from the House Dubois. Her mother is in London. She grew up with Robin. She sees him as a spoiled child. She doesn't really want his protection. But she's grieving her brother, and she's like, "You can't replace my brother." He's like, "I'm not trying to because I don't want to be your brother. I want to be your boyfriend." But she's like, you can't replace him. And then when the guards come, they play that they stole her horses and they're running off. Because I mean they do. But this is where we get the first spyglass bit where he like doesn't understand telescopes. We also get Duncan being racist to Azim because he can't see Azim. Basically like, oh, those Moors,
Oh,
those
yes,
yeah. And he's
yes.
like, I'm a Moor. And he's like, ooh.
Yeah. Mind you,
I
Duncan is the butt of a lot of blind jokes in this as well. So it's yeah.
mm,
There's just a lot of yeah,
There's
not
a
a lot of
lot
empathy
happening.
going on. There's a lot happening. Yeah.
I do like this actress playing Marion though. I do think there's as is often the case with Marion, there's not much there, but she does with it what she can.
Yeah.
And I think she's so beautiful and I love her hair.
Her
Those are my most important
I
notes.
mean, a bit of a chaperone,
Yes, a
uh,
real Chapel Roan.
and beautiful cheekbones, beautiful bone structure.
I love
Indeed.
her. I love her clean girl aesthetic makeup, but she is in full beat. Like she is in full medieval beat at all times. But no, I like her. There is something to her,
Yeah,
like her.
yeah. There's a fire. She's very spunky. Again, very 90s heroine, very like almost Belle from Beauty and the Beast energy. And like many a 90s heroine, she's imperiled by the advances of the villain. It's a very classic, but it works rendition of her.
Mm.
But Robin and Azim and Duncan flee to Sherwood, which the soldiers fear because it's like the haunted woods. And it's because they've put up chimes in the trees. Uh, and they fall in a booby trap across the river. He trips on a rope. Christian Slater's laughing at him. Uh, and he has to do a little John for his father's cross. And this
I
is
feel
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I feel like Little John in this is an interesting presence. He's intense in a different way from a lot of the Little Johns, and I think that's partly the casting because you've got this guy who's got these kind of like bright blue eyes and
Yeah,
I
who
love
is
his
quite
big
physically and
face. I just love his great big face. It's so striking.
it
He's
is.
an interesting cast, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get this quarterstaff classic fight scene that is both intense and goofy. And like
Mhm.
we get that his kid was saved by Robin, so they're like kind of sympathetic. Uh and I don't really remember at what point we fully flesh this out, but we get that Robin doesn't get along didn't get along with his father because after his mother died, his father had like a peasant mistress, and Robin didn't like it and didn't forgive him. And this is supposed to be like the pinnacle of Robin's selfishness that eventually he like sent her away to, appease Robin, which definitely feels like divorced dad was asked to write like what is the most selfish thing a child could do or be. Because I'm like, oh, I mean, I get it, that is pretty selfish, but
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange thing, but I guess eventually that gives us a bit more texture to the dynamic between Will Scarlet and Robin.
yes, yeah,
Um,
I I do think this film it is like a sort of putting the band together sort of origin story thing,
yeah,
but it does feel like it takes a long time for all the pieces to
it
get
does.
put in place. Like I feel like it's like a good sort of 40 minutes, an hour into it before we even get Little John. Like, and that's his
Yeah.
main mate. That's the main guy we know. What are we doing? So it feels like it's sort of paced quite strangely in
It
that way.
it does have a strange pace, and this was probably the beginning of like the origin story era where everyone really loved doing origin stories, and now we've kind of come back to just start me in the middle. Don't give me the origin story. We went through a
Mm.
couple decades of like, let's start with this person's origin story, and now we're like, start in the middle. Because I think of if I think of like Disney or Errol Flynn, they tend to start in the like he's Robin Hooding
mm,
about Disney
mm.
minimal context. I think they give a little more, and Errol, I'll have to when I'll see when we rewatch, but it kind of starts in he's Robin Hooding already. But they are impressed by Robin's fighting ability, his spunk. And so he's invited to dinner where he's like, "Don't be racist. Azim is my guy." And Azim's like, "It's fine, I don't drink." And Will is like, "Fuck you, Robin." Because
Will is the worst.
he's
Well, at the beginning, he gets a
yeah.
little bit better later on, but oh,
I do love that they come up with this whole backstory of why he doesn't like him, but I was just kind of like, oh, he's like a rich guy who comes in and is trying to like be the face of them. I get why he'd be like, oh, annoying.
I actually prefer that to the backstory that they
Yeah,
end up giving it. Like I think, like
yeah,
sometimes the guy is just you don't get on because he's kind of an asshole. Like that could be the thing. But
yeah.
I think Christian Slater is such an odd cast in this for me. I mean, the accent is let's not go there, but it is a he's got whatever the 90s equivalent to iPad face is. Like he's so like
Yeah,
that guy of that
contemporary rather
time that
than yeah.
it's kind of strange having him in this space.
yeah.
But
He
yeah.
he doesn't look like he's from that time, and there is a lot of '90s boy haircut happening
Mm,
with
mm.
like even Little John's son, like kind of like swoopy hair, like very Jonathan Taylor Thomas energy.
He's very 90s Muppet. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah, it's not always the most period, but yeah, there is a bit of iPhone face happening, but pre-iPhone. But Robin, meanwhile, he goes to church to see Marion because they're collecting money for the poor, but he's also trying to be like, Marion, what's up? She's like, you stink. Take a bath. And he also wants to confer with the bishop, who's like, yeah, your dad confessed, babe. Like he worshipped the devil. Sad. Um,
This bishop being a nasty one as well. He's in league with the sheriff and
yeah. And you can tell
bad
because
news.
that his hat is not proportioned to his head. His
the true
mitre.
sign of someone
That's
evil.
the
Yeah.
tell. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember because I used to have to like hold that hat, or that was like a big deal when I was in Altar Boys if the bishop came and you got to be the hat holder guy. Uh, but the hat is too small for his head because again in the 90s, fat is evil.
Hmm.
And they wonder why everyone was messed up who grew up in that time. But so the sheriff catches him because he's like, "You stole the horses. You're making me look bad," and he gives the sheriff a scar. And I want to say it was a Captain Planet villain who's always like, he did this to me. But that's what it felt like. He's like, ah, he scarred my beautiful face.
Mm.
Uh, and we get this kind of wild, fun action sequence where he gets away on the sheriff's horse, and the sheriff is mad about it. So he's like, time to start burning people's homes, time to cancel Christmas.
Time to cut people's hearts out with spoons.
Yes, because
Is
it's
it?
dull, it'll hurt more.
Is this when Robin? Is this when Robin escapes by like chopping the chandelier and like
Yeah,
flying up? Because it is a bit like you don't want to make the Errol Flynn film,
but
but
we're
you're
gonna
doing
do
that.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like,
It's still Robin
fun,
Hood.
go
No, I liked
off.
it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it.
And we also get that the sheriff is into Marion and is plotting something against the king. Um, and this is where Robin Hood is like, okay, well, we're all fleeing to the woods. I'm your leader. And they're like, excuse me. And he's like, you're just gonna come in and be the leader? He's like, I mean, yeah, I am. And we're gonna use the science and it's one man defending their homes is worth 10 hired soldiers. I learned that from the Crusades. And they build their little like cottage core community here in
Yes.
Nottingham or
Mm,
in the Sherwood Forest.
Near Ewok Village.
Yes.
Very that.
Very that. There was a playset of it. I found as I was trying to find this image. They
That's
did
the
make
important
merch.
research. That's the
Yeah.
important research.
It blows my mind. Like there was not only like playset and action figures for this, there was like a kid's breakfast cereal, a Robin Hood Prince of Thieves breakfast
Wow.
cereal. Like
Because I mean
what a time.
I saw this as a kid, but not like a young kid. I want to say I was more like, well, yeah, I mean young, like 9, 10, not like
Mhm.
little little. Um, because there's a lot of adult stuff happening. I mean, at one point, the one of his, I think, Much, is he called Much? He's gonna whip his dick out. One of them's
Hmm.
gonna whip his
Hmm.
dick out, and they're like,
Mm.
"Save it for the ladies, no homo." Uh,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Oh, I mean, I guess as a kid, I didn't pick up that's what he was talking about."
Yeah,
Um,
there are a few moments it does kind of push. I guess it was a PG-13 maybe,
what was this
or
rated?
uh, yeah, because it feels like it's that this is a blockbuster situation that you can bring the whole family to, but there's stuff in here that it's either going to go over the kids' heads or but there are those sort of more violent moments and when you see the dead bodies and stuff is a little bit
Yeah,
grisly.
yeah. I was
Um,
kind of like, "Oh, wow, this was
mm,
more intense than
mm.
I remember." And this is so we get kind of like through montage, we get that they are starting to rob the rich and give to the poor, build this whole community, build this whole treasury. He's flirting with the rich noblewomen as he steals their rings. They're saving like little churches that are being attacked by the sheriff's men. There's even like he like breaks the nose of one of the soldiers or like the his like little helmet. And so that same guy appears in several scenes with like the twisted
Oh
helmet
yeah.
nose thing.
Hmm.
Uh, and we also, this is where we meet Friar Tuck, who's bringing beer, and he is like, "Oh, I'm smarter and better than you." And then he gets knocked out. He's drunk. He's
Feral.
Islamophobic. He's
Yeah,
feral.
he's I
The,
this was weird, this Friar Tuck stuff to be like there's a lot of the Friar Tuck stuff in this is very very strange to me.
it's such a long sequence, the Friar Tuck bit, and then
Yeah.
he's like pulling the horse and carriage, like because
Oh yeah, because they like
there's
yoke him.
yeah, because there's nothing funnier than a big fat drunk man pulling a horse and carriage for a
Yeah.
rich guy. No,
Ooh.
but it's such a long sequence. But it also sort of, I think it like it treats Friar Tuck and the presence of Friar Tuck as like, oh, this is the big thing. This is like one of the things you're here for, right? Like
Yeah.
Friar Tuck. No, wait, he's here. He's here. And then sort of do not that much with him other than like being drunk and kind of racist in every scene that he's
Yeah.
in. And then he learns
And
at
he
the end.
grows. It is
And he
Yes.
a
breaks the fourth wall at the end,
Oh, I hate
Oh
winking at the
yeah.
audience.
let's not.
It is again, it is a lot. for to introduce a character that could pretty easily be introduced because you could just have like the village friar who is upset that the poor people are being like murdered and attacked and then joins the
Mm.
band and like then you wouldn't have to do this whole song and dance.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Another
think
choice, another choice. Yeah.
another choice, and this movie does have a very long run time.
We
But
had to do it in two sittings. Like I
yeah,
was
same.
like, but on saying that, the first I have to be honest, I found the first half a real slog. But then the second half, because you had that big final act, that was
Yeah.
fun. Like that kind of like trotted along quite nicely. But yeah, up until that halfway point, I was like, oh, I don't know. I've got a
Once
lot
all the
of nice
pieces
things
are
to
in
say.
place,
Yes.
once
Yeah.
we get to the Robin Hooding of Robin Hood,
Yes.
yeah. And Marion comes to visit. She and Rebecca outwit the guards, but they get themselves blindfolded so they can't betray the location of the camp. But she's not blindfolded when she sees him bathing in the fountain, just like she asked him a few months
Oh.
later. He's finally taking a bath.
Wah,
She's like,
wah,
wow, the bare
wah.
minimum.
What a great butt double is what she's
What a great
thinking.
butt double. But again, I was thinking about how, we expect actors to look now, and I was like, wow, he's wild. He's just a guy. Uh, I appreciate that. But yeah, he's like, "Oh, hey Marianne, welcome. Let me give you a tour of the pad, see all the science and weapons we're forging and our camp and all the treasury." And she gives him a knife that's all bejeweled and he's like, "Oh, thanks." And they like Tarzan swing sort of between tree houses.
I
And sh
just I just don't feel like these houses are practical. I don't feel like the swinging between houses is like the Ewok village of it all and the sort of I don't know. It feels a little Disneyland for the groundedness of
yeah.
the film.
But it's from the same movie as Witch in the Basement. I think that's where it's like
Is
the
it?
Yes,
two,
yes.
it's like the historical fiction movie and then the fantasy movie, and they're kind of Robin Hood has always existed in the space between,
Hmm.
and
Mm,
they're really clashing because it is fun to swing from house to house. But yeah, is it really practical? And it turns out not really. Uh, because the Well, he after they have their romantic visit, they dance around. He cucks Will Scarlet because he wants to dance with her. And he's like, no,
sh
she's taken.
she's very Merida in this part. Like she
Yeah.
feels like Merida from Brave. She's in the green dress and the chapel roan hair.
Drip
Um, uh,
frolicking.
Hmm.
Frolicking around. I liked it. I liked this
Yeah.
bit, the dancing
I,
around the fire.
we get the Everything I Do bit in the score, which is the
Yeah.
kind of
Mm,
Maid Marian theme, and that's something that's interesting because there's also like a little you get the snippet of the dialogue, which is like everything I do it
mm.
for you
Yeah.
here. But the
They
song
said the
is
thing.
they said the thing, but the song is kind of from Marion's perspective. So it's quite
Yeah.
it's interesting that, it's Bryan Adams and it's like this very gruff kind of masculine voice. And a little fact, Michael and I are both big fans of Kate Bush. And originally the composer Michael Kamen, who came up with
Mhm.
this Maid Marian motif and was like, this is going to be the pop song. And they offered it to Kate Bush first of all, and she turned it down. So eventually then it was Bryan Adams
Come on, Kate.
That song could have been
later.
everywhere.
Yeah,
You
it
could
could
have
have
been hearing
been.
Kate Bush
Yeah,
everywhere instead of
yeah,
Bryan
it could have
Adams.
been. Could have been.
Wow.
But yeah, it's nice to get this little romantic moment between the two of them here.
Yeah.
It was quite a nice change of pace, I think.
And this is where he kind of talks about, his past, his selfish past, and wanting to be better. And this is also where we get the childbirth thing. Nothing is as romantic as, holding somebody's newborn baby. And Friar Tuck is like, I'm sorry, I'm racist. I won't do that anymore. And uh there's also a little girl at one point asks Azim, oh,
Oh, did
did
paint
God
you?
paint
Yeah, I
you?
was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And he's
I think,
like,
yeah, that was where the penny dropped because I hadn't like put two and two together with the witch talking about the painted man before. I was like,
yeah.
oh, okay, That that's what this means. Okay, okay.
Because he does have sort of tattoos on his face,
Hmm.
Yeah.
right?
So I was like,
Yeah.
are we talking about the tattoo or are we talking about that he's a black man?
Yeah.
Like unclear, unclear. And
Unclear.
I guess a medieval child would say something like that to be to be fair, but yeah, but Marion is going back on a misty boat. She's in her Lady of Shalott era,
Hmm.
and he's like, "Hey, can you write to King Richard, who is somewhere, um, and tell him that, the sheriff is plotting against him. Do it for the people." And she's like, "I won't do it for them. I'll do it for you."
Ah, there we go.
And
Penny
he's
drops.
penny drops. Also take Duncan. He's blind. He can't live out in the woods. Um, this is, I do think the Richard as the away king. It's like, is he on crusades, or I think he was imprisoned in Hungary or Bohemia, IRL. So I'm like, where is he? Like, if he's in prison, I don't
Hmm.
know if you can really write him a letter to come back, but is he at the Crusades? I was like, he's always such a messy aspect of Robin Hood movies.
Just do
Uh,
do what they want with him. It's
yeah.
Sean Connery. He's filming Red Dawn or whatever he was doing at the time. He was.
Yeah. Uh, but he's like, yeah, the sheriff, he's forging Spanish steel, and he's going to lead the barons in revolt. And that's what he's doing. He also kills Gisborne because he keeps failing to capture Robin Hood, and they keep losing all the money that's supposed to go to the barons to bribe them. So he kills Gisborne. It's like, at least I didn't use the spoon, and everyone
Hmm.
watches. And the witch is like, you need a royal baby. Uh, if you're gonna win, you need a royal baby to cement your claim. Also, you're gonna need beasts from the north who share the same god.
Oh
Hi, that's
dear.
us.
It's like, oh, the Celts.
Get the Celts.
And I'm like, at this period of history, I don't think that's how the Celts were dressing, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they're
how we
looking a bit
dress now.
Pictish. Right, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm like, this is giving like ancient Rome Celts, not
Yeah.
we're
It
at
is
the Crusades.
wild.
They
It is
were
wild.
what are they called? Like historical reenactment
Yeah.
Mm.
Celts. Yeah.
Because I'm like, would they have even called them the Celts then? Like, the Moor does make sense. That is what they would call someone from North
Hmm.
Africa. But I'm like, I mean, the Kingdom of Scotland was around and kicking. You just call them Scottish, but
Wildlings, why not? Throw that into the mix, you
yeah,
know.
the Wild Men of Dunland.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's his plan. But Marion trusts the evil bishop. She's like, I'm writing this letter, send word to Richard, but she doesn't trust him that much because she's like, Rebecca's going with the messenger. But the messenger betrays Rebecca, and Marion is captured in the night. She does not, that fighting the intruder thing, that was a one-time deal.
She
Uh,
forgot all of those skills straight
yeah.
out of her brain.
Yeah. She's like, I wasn't, she needed the time of Robin knocking out the door to get dressed and ready for it. So now she wasn't ready. And Duncan gets on a horse and is like, take me to Robin. And he leads the sheriff's men to Sherwood. So the sheriff's men and the Celts attack. Very scary action sequence. They're going after the women and the children, just like their Anakin. And everyone's like, first, okay, get in the treehouse. And then, oh no, they have fire arrows.
It's crazy, this sequence. It's amazing though. It's great. It's
Yeah,
great.
it's scary. I feel the peril, and I think in a lot of
Hmm.
action movies, the downfall is like when you don't feel scared for any of the characters. But
Mm.
in this, you're like, how's Fanny gonna get to Little John? Like,
I was really into Fanny and Little John. I think they're so great. I have
yeah,
really bought into these into the they're my OTP in this film. And that sequence where she has to like get on the rope and go between the two tree houses and people are firing arrows at her and everything's on fire. Like I felt that. Like
yeah,
as a larger lady myself, like I don't want to go over a rope. I get why she's not really up for
yeah. That's
it.
scary. But she's like, all right. And Robin gets shot down by a fire arrow, or his rope does, and they're like, oh no, he's fallen.
And yet,
And yet
He somehow
he
survives.
survives, and they're all so they everyone flees, I guess, like they're disbanded, but almost everyone is captured, and they're taken back, and the sheriff is like, I heard you were gonna tell on me. And she's like, Bishop, and he's like, oh, you're being led astray, child. And he's like, yeah, you can you should marry me. She's like, no. It's like, or I'm gonna kill all the children of Sherwood Forest and your maid. And he brings them up so she can look at them and be like, he's like, do you want me to kill them all? And she's like, okay, no, I guess I don't have a choice. And she does a Disney princess cry run, like through the halls.
Through the hall, past an owl, through a beam of light. This was my favorite shot in the film. This little moment, which felt very 80s fantasy, actually.
Yeah.
This particular shot.
Well, because the
I
robes are
like.
running, she's like running
Hmm.
through, yeah, and it's like a
Hmm.
dramatic sob.
Hmm.
Um, and again, so when I say that Marion kind of turns into a damsel, I don't mean this to say, like, I think all her reactions to everything that's happening to her are appropriate. It's just they
It's
introduced her as a different
yeah,
style of character. And I'm like, oh no, she's just like, she's a noble woman who's like a good person and is feisty, but is also like in legitimately terrifying, scary situations and is reacting accordingly. But we introduced her as a combatant.
exactly. It's the inconsistency,
Yeah.
which is the thing about this film that which is why I think I'm myself, I'm not really sure how I feel about it because it is just kind of all over the place. But I think that's the thing that people are responding to when they're being critical of it. It's yeah, the first half I think is a slog, but what really strikes me about it is just how inconsistent the choices are. It's not that
Yeah.
they're bad choices in and of themselves, but it's just sort of all over the place.
I think my sort of take I think there are like three films happening at once here,
Yeah.
and I think I really like one of them. Um, and the other two I could take or leave.
Yeah.
So that's why it could be a bit of a stray, like it's a strain, and it's so long. It's such a long
Yeah.
film.
It is very long. But the other kids they're captured, the other kids, the Merry Men, and Will Scarlet is like, I'll betray him. I don't like him. And Little John's kid is like, no. But they let Will Scarlet go because they're like, okay, you can either bring us Robin Hood or, we'll just kill you later. And Robin will kill him. But he shows up and instantly, because Robin is back, they're like, he's alive.
Not just that, in an absolute Jesus moment,
Yeah.
bathed in light, we get the shot of him coming back, and we're getting uh, Messiah Robin coming through the mists. It's a little much.
This movie doesn't like restraint. And I'm like, good for
Subtlety, maybe?
you.
I don't know how.
I like it. I think that's how people should always come back in a
I mean, yeah, if I was
film.
gonna if I'm gonna pull a resurrection moment, like I'm
Mhm.
gonna do it dramatically.
Full tilt, yeah. And then it abruptly cuts away from that into whatever the next scene is.
Yeah.
I felt like they was strangely edited that moment, but yeah.
Yeah. Almost like the in the Bible. Strange editing in some of those
Mm-hmm.
scenes. Yeah. But they Will Scarlet shows up and the surviving merry men are like, he's a traitor, and Robin's like, no, hear him out. And he's like, I don't like you because we're half brothers.
I
And
hated this reveal. I hate it. I think it's so stupid.
I
Like
hate
we're
this reveal.
brothers.
Ugh.
I don't think it makes I don't think it does anything. Like, and
No,
I
it doesn't.
think I kind of like because Robin does just turn up and take over. Like, I think it's fine for Will to think he's
Yeah.
Hmm.
and also and Robin is kind of he is a dick. So like it makes sense. And then this sort of crybaby, you're my brother reveal
Yeah.
it doesn't do much for me.
I don't like that decision, like kind of writing wise, but weirdly enough, this is the one scene where people remember to take their acting pills because I think that Kevin Costner is good in this scene, unlike the rest of the movie, and so is Christian Slater, again, unlike the rest of the movie. It's like all of a sudden they kind of locked in for this scene, and then
Mm.
yeah.
This is just not from the mythology at all. Like this
No.
brother thing.
No.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
weird.
It's For because for whatever reason, Will Scarlet and Rufio from
Hmm.
A Hook,
They
they're
occupy a
like,
similar space, don't
yeah,
they?
yeah,
This sort of the Lancer, I think, is the TV tropes
the
term for this
TV
kind of
tropes,
character,
pulling out
right?
the text TV
You know
tropes.
it. You know
Yeah,
it. Yeah, there's yeah, but yeah, this idea of a character who has a lot of similarities to the leader and is like the kind of is the second in command usually, and
yeah,
has that slightly kind of rival relationship with the leader and can sometimes like hold some resentment towards them. And yeah, it very much turns up the dial on that with Will Scarlet in this adaptation and yeah, it's introducing this half brother reveal is unnecessary, I think, as well.
yeah. It also, I think, having a peasant mistress or any kind of mistress was incredibly common. So the way it kind of treats it as like a big deal
Hmm.
feels a little anachronistic. But they're all the gang's together and they're not sexist. Fanny's part of the gang too. You know,
I did love this moment when Fanny joins the fight. Like
yeah.
I'm really into her and Little John. I want to watch that movie. But
Well, she's
her
very
joining,
smart. She's very clever and practical, so it makes sense. Like you need her. You need everybody.
I think there's something quite beautiful about them. These two like slightly like these two fat, kind of slightly messy looking characters, but they're quite hot together. I think I'm into this couple in a way
I
that I'm
love
not
that.
usually into a straight couple.
I mean, and it also makes sense. She's not gonna sit at home while like one of her children is potentially hung. She's like, if I can participate in helping save him, I'm going to.
Hanging a child is
Intense.
wild in a film. Like
Yeah.
this is wild. It's so yeah.
Well,
Big
he
And
hates
swings.
Christmas, so of course he'd hang a child. He's
naturally,
evil.
naturally. Yeah,
Uh,
Fanny has the line though. I wrote this down. I assume this is Fanny, but I just wrote down line of dialogue. I likes a good hanging, I do, which I think is Fanny, but I'm
yes.
not. It is not her
Yeah.
child being hung, but yeah, yeah,
Well,
other
she's
people.
she's
Fine,
she's cosplaying, she's
right?
disguising herself as a townie, and it's just like, oh, I'm
She's
sitting up here because I
yes,
love
that
a good
was the
hanging. I
context.
want to
So she
look
does.
up from the
Yes. Uh-huh.
wall.
I also love like during the sequence where they're explaining the plan, where Robin is like explaining the plan, he's made a bunch of little like fairy houses to
Yeah.
lay out the the castle and like where
Yeah.
everyone's gonna stand and stuff. Like that's an art project. He's
Yeah.
really he loves
It
crafts.
looks
He's
like
changed.
something Carol Duvall would make on
Mm.
HGTV, like something a woman named Sharon has in their garden. Like,
I love it. I love it.
yeah, and it's his little. They have this pretty interesting plan where they're like using gunpowder. He's using poop on himself because his consistent character trait is he smells bad and people don't want him around. So he's using that to sneak in. They're
Dresses up again.
dresses
Yeah.
up. They're
Mm.
they're pulling in weapons from over the ramparts and distributing them. It's a very well thought out plan. But what goes wrong is Little John's son recognizes Will Scarlet and is like, "You're a traitor. You're a traitor." And then the sheriff is like, "Who's up there with Marion?" And he's like, "Oh, are you? What are you doing? Oh, you have a sword. Okay, hang him too." And this is all, for Marion and the Barons. They're there for the wedding. Uh, and when the plan goes awry, but Robin can't let it happen, so he starts shooting the ropes and trying to break the ropes, and then they get up there and they're holding people as they're being hung so they don't suffocate. It's a very intense action sequence, but great choreography, exploding barrels.
It's
Arrow
like
cam.
it's a lot of the arrow cam. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It's a lot of elements of the film coming together as well in like that very satisfying screenplay way.
Yeah.
Like it's the gunpowder, it's sneaking the gunpowder in the beer barrels, which we know
Yeah.
the friar did in his previous sort of 10-minute sequence. It's all that, so it's everything coming together in this really satisfying, beautiful way. And Marion's wedding dress is the fashion moment of the entire piece for me. Like he the Sheriff of Nottingham may be evil, but he's got great
Yeah.
taste.
I do love how they put her hair up in a way that's like reminiscent of like the headpieces a lot of medieval women would wear, but it's
Mm,
still just her hair, so it's not as it appeals to modern taste. It's like,
mhm,
oh, that looks cool, but it's like an homage to
mhm.
the medieval period. Uh, but yeah, so the people fight back. They free the people being hung. The guards are routed, and the barons are like, "Wow, you're kind of a cuck, sheriff. Like this isn't Law and Order."
During that sequence, though, the bit that I loved, I mean, my slight tangent, and this might just be like I saw a thing that was similar to this, and I'm now going to say the thing that was similar. But I feel like the like hanging a child is crazy, and I feel like they nick this sequence in Game of Thrones, for like
Oh,
when they're like when they're like hanging all the guys that killed Jon Snow. And amongst them is a little boy, and I feel like the sequence is like sort of set up and filmed quite similarly. But the bit that is wild in this is when little John runs over and pushes over the whole like
yeah.
barrows. It's beautiful, it's great. And then there's the reunion between my favorite characters, little John and Fanny.
And there's
Like,
son. Yeah, I mean, it
and there's
is.
some that I don't remember ever caring about until this moment.
But it is like it is genuinely emotional because they feel
Mm,
like a real family that has been going
yes.
through it. And so it is like having that he's gonna hang a child really ups the stakes because otherwise it's just kind of like here's some people you don't really know. But it's like, oh, this kid and we love his family and they're all concerned. And so it shows just how evil the sheriff is and just how intense everything
And it
is.
is I think you need Little John and Fanny, and I think why I am like why I gravitate towards them is because Robin Hood and Marion sort of can't get out of the fact that they're Robin Hood and Marion. Like they have to
Yeah.
sort of be these iconic characters and
Yeah.
have to hit these beats that we know they have to hit. And like and sort of when they don't, it doesn't feel very satisfying, even though they're trying to do something different. Whereas I feel like these characters feel more real and
Yeah.
like real people in a real relationship and like just that moment when
Yeah.
she like reunites with him and she's like, "Hello, my lover." It's like, I love
Yeah.
you.
They also help you care about the kingdom because I think there are a lot of movies where you have to save a kingdom or something, but they're all just kind of like NPCs. And so
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I care about the kingdom in theory. And this is like, oh, these are like the real people living here who have actual experience harm and danger because of like the regime. So now we really want the bad guys to be overthrown so these people can like just have a nice little normal life.
Yeah.
Uh, and we
It
get,
it it sets up lots of different kinds of stakes, I think, this film,
yeah,
which I think is successful like from like kind of from the ground up basically. So yeah, that's one of the things that I think really does work here, that it's not just this sort of nebulous thing of like, oh well, we all know that Robin Hood's going to save the day and it's all going
yeah.
to, we know how that's going. Like there is that little bit more tension that's built into it that way.
And you need to feel scared that something could go wrong and
Hmm.
some of these characters could get hurt and you need to care about them.
Hmm.
Otherwise, like always say, like in the Disney Robin Hood, he's so kind of like "Oh, a lot of that, like nothing feels that intense or scary. Like everything just feels like it's
Hmm.
going to be fine. And this feels like, oh, this is scary. And the sheriff sweeps Marion off to the chapel where Mortiana has set up a black mass for the wedding. And he's like, no, I want the bishop to do it. I want something pure. And that pure, I guess, is the bishop reading the vows while I force her to be quiet and say, of course she agrees. And then I guess, trigger warning, he's on top of her trying to mount.
The way that that was like blocked as well, like the way that his kind of legs sort of
Yeah.
swing out, it's like it's almost like are you deliberately playing this for like comedy in this moment? Like is it because I was just like what is going on here? Like what it was
Because
another
there are
interesting
moments where
choice.
he's playing it almost for comedy, and
Yeah.
but she is not,
She's not
understandably.
exactly. Yeah,
But so,
she's
but I'm very upset because I'm like, this is really visceral and really
right.
scary.
Yeah.
It's like the
I
Princess
feel you.
Bride wedding taken to its like logical, realistic conclusion that
Hmm.
like these forced marriage is like a forced sexual assault on this woman,
Hmm.
and it's just happening all at once,
Yeah.
and that lame ass that not that stupid bishop is there scared because someone scratched his forehead, so he's gonna go along with it, and she's like, "How could you?"
I can't wait till he gets defenestrated in a moment.
Defenestrate it, yeah.
I needed to get that word into this
Yeah,
episode.
I'm
Like
proud of
we
you.
so rarely get the chance to use that word, but
Yeah,
defenestrated he will be.
Not to be too much of a film person, but there's so many like mad extreme close-ups of Nottingham during this sequence that feels such there's such strange choices often. It's almost like a fisheye lens, like it's like he's so close to the yeah, like that. Yeah, very
yeah,
well demonstrated. It's such an odd choice. The bit that I absolutely popped off for, actually two bits, but was the first bit was Robin and Morgan Freeman uh being catapulted over the
yeah,
wall, like and then Christian Slater, like Will Scarlet, saying "fuck me, he cleared it," which was
yeah,
apparently an ad-libbed line, but it's so wild. Like like it's such a stupid thing to
yeah.
happen, and I love it. I
Well,
love it.
again, it's the few different movies happening. Like this one
Hmm.
woman is being traumatically assaulted, and then we have like a sequence that I would have invented playing Legos as a kid, where
Yes,
it's like we
yes.
catapult them in.
Boing.
Yeah. And they're like trying to bang down the door with like the statue of the sheriff that at one point someone put the scar on and it pissed him
Yeah.
off. And it's not working, so he has to like swing down from the roof through the window, and is there to save the day. The sheriff wants to stab Robin with his father's sword. In Poetic Justice, we get this. He's like, he's making weird jokes about like mounting her or something as they're doing this fight sequence. And she's screaming, but she's also participating. She is like pushing pews and stuff
Hmm.
to help him. So I'm like, this does track with the Marion of this half of the movie. Again, she's not a fighter, but this makes sense of like what she's doing to
What
help.
she is gonna do. Hmm.
I
Yeah.
love it. Like I love the thing with the candle. Like it does
Yeah.
feel like she's active in
Yeah. She's
this
not just
moment.
standing there screaming, she's participating.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Uh
The the thing about the father's sword is so like Sigmund Freud. It's so Psych 101. Like it's such a
yeah.
like we I want to penetrate you with your father's sword is so go to therapy. Go
Yeah.
to therapy.
I mean,
Sheriff of Nottingham.
all the great rival hero villain rivalries have a homoerotic undertone. Like, why are you so obsessed with me? And so he ends up stabbing the sheriff with the sword he got from Marion, the little dagger, the little bejeweled
Hmm.
dagger. He best believe I'm still bejeweled. He pulls it from his boot and stabs the sheriff, and he's like, kind of like, "Oh, this is how I die." Uh, uh,
The
and
the death scene is so long. He takes
It's
so
drawn
long
out.
to die.
you're like, "Wrap
Mortiana
this
as
up."
well.
Yeah, because she gets stabbed a couple times by Azim.
Hmm.
Even run through with her own like fireplace poker.
The
Comes back for a jump scare.
Mortiana, that was the other bit that's like absolutely sent me was Morgan Freeman throwing Mortiana against the wall. Like it's so crazy. It's one of these things where like you just don't get to see that so often in culture. Like
A
an
witch being
old
thrown into a
woman being
wall. Yes.
absolutely dragged around the place. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
And her nails are weapons. Like
Mm.
she's a creature, less of like, oh, a human woman.
She is actually magic, right? Mortiana.
Yeah.
Is she just eccentric? Is she just saying bullshit and like doing bullshit?
Well,
Like,
they do die because of Robin and
mm,
Azim, so her prophecy came true.
and Robin Hood as a mythology rarely has magic in it, right? It is
Rarely.
always
I mean, he sort of is killed by his aunt, who's a prioress who has a lover, and she's like a leecher. So it's like it's like magic adjacent, but not what they would think of as magic.
mm,
So it's not set in like
In
in
fantasy.
fantasy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Very different from like I think King Arthur is a
mm,
similar character that people think of, but that's very much high
Hmm.
fantasy.
mm,
And that even the name Mortiana feels like more she feels Arthurian in like
yeah.
her
Like Morgana or something.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that they're drawing from.
But yeah, she's beat against the wall, she's stabbed, a lot happens. I thought at one point she was gonna kill Azim, but he lives. And he's like, I paid off my debt, and Robin and Marion are reunited, and they have a beautiful cottagecore aesthetic
Red Fair
forest
Wedding.
wedding. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Ah, their folklore
Yeah.
Evermore era. I loved it.
Yes. Everyone's all dressed up. It's and King and Richard shows up and is like, "Thank you," or he's like, "Oh, well, let me stop this wedding just so I can." Uh,
Stop the wedding.
yeah. Sean Connery, you're here.
Yeah. Wow, right, I know.
He also came for the last minute of this podcast, just like he came for the last minute of the movie. Uh, he's like, "Oh, let me give away the bride," and so they kiss. Thank you for saving the kingdom. And again, again, this is like the fantasy Disney kind of like where Ewok Village movies ending, you know. Uh, because I was trying to be like, what are the vibes? And I was like, is this full medieval grunge? No, because it's not Snow White and the Huntsman grunge. I'm calling it medieval rustic.
Yes. So one of the things about the look of this film is I really like the costumes. I
Yeah,
like Robin's costume, like the different fabrics and the sort of patchwork quality of it. I think looks good. Marion's dress, as we mentioned,
beautiful
um,
gowns. Yeah,
beautiful gowns, great gowns. Um, Will Scarlet has a little purple hood at one point. He looks a bit like the Green Goblin.
yeah,
So aesthetically, and of course, this wedding scene looks lovely.
yeah,
Aesthetically, I'm into the costume work. The hair and makeup, on the other hand, is another matter. Robin's mullet, what is this all about? It just doesn't look like it looks like he's from an 80s hair metal band or something.
yeah. He
It
looks
just
like
doesn't look right
MacGyver.
for yeah, yes. Um yeah, it's just another aspect of it as well that I think is the cinematography. Like I feel with all these big woodland scenes, all these forest scenes, you could have really made a big meal of that, but it doesn't kind of take the opportunities with the scenery a lot of times. But yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a mixed bag in terms of the look and the vibes for me.
A lot of it was shot in historical settings, and I think it shows in both a good and a bad way, and that it feels authentic. And there are times when they're in the woods where I'm like, oh, this is a real forest. This isn't like
Hmm.
a fantasy forest. But there are other times where it's like, okay, well, we're shooting this to get around the fact, we're shooting it this way to get around the fact that this is a historical site and part of it's in ruin and part of it is done. And other things look like they're in ruin, but should they be in ruin in this time period?
Hmm.
Or like, is this castle actually like more of a dupe castle built later? You always run into that whenever you use like a real historical place to film. Yeah, great costumes. I guess we've talked about our characters. How do we feel about this iteration of Robin?
Dull.
Dull.
Not my favorite.
Ah, I don't. I like this Robin Hood film, but I think he's the least. I think by the end he's Robin Hood, and that's the
Yeah,
point of the film, right? But I think
yeah,
because you go in to a film called Robin Hood, it the fact that it just takes him so long to sort of slot into that maybe
yeah,
makes him not like he's not doing what he's meant to do. So I think you're sometimes fighting the fact that the film is fighting against itself quite a
yeah.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is very kind of I think I like the movie more than I like this particular character of Robin Hood. I think he is kind of
Hmm.
dull and I don't really like he doesn't seem to be charismatic enough to like gather all the merry men. Like I kind of don't fully believe that he can do it. And I think sometimes you run into this with adaptations where it's like they're like kind of embarrassed of what they're adapting or they don't like what they're
Yeah.
adapting. And so then you get these kind of weird composite characters that they're trying to homage to the original, but they also don't really like what they're homaging. And so, or they think it's kind of silly. And I'm like, well, if we're doing Robin Hood, you're doing Robin Hood. If you don't like Robin Hood, don't do Robin Hood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sometimes it chooses to lean into the silliness, and sometimes it is like, oh, like keep it at arm's length. And
Yeah.
that inconsistency, I think that's why I find this version of Robin dull, because I think if there was a more charismatic actor in the role that could have
Hmm.
like crowbarred up some of that dialogue and delivered it in more of a charming way,
Yeah.
it might have worked for Robin the character. But yeah, as it is, he's kind of a little bit of a black hole at the
Yeah.
center of this film.
Kevin Costner does admit to this, though. I read like it was like bits from his apparently on the DVD version, and there's a
Mm.
special edition DVD where he does the commentary, and at certain points he's like quite scathing and sort of self-depreciating about his own performance. To the extent that I think he does say like, "Oh, I wish I could act," which I think is a little harsh. I think he's
Yeah.
sort of fine and functional. Um, but I think what one of the interesting things about that the thing of the film maybe being a little embarrassed to be a Robin Hood film sometimes is that it's also a you're watching it now, you're watching this very, very 90s blockbuster film
Yeah.
that has what we now see as very sort of corny 90s blockbuster stuff in it. Like that shot with the arrow
Yeah.
cam thing and that shot of him with the whole like blazing like
Mm.
gunpowder explosion behind him is so 90s and so blockbuster and so
Yeah.
like it feels like pastiche because it's so of its time.
Yeah.
Um that it is an interesting watch in that way, I think. Like it is an incredibly 90s film and an incredibly 90s version of Robin Hood. And in
Both
the
parentheses complimentary and parentheses derogatory.
Yes, yes. In the 90s we were kind of embarrassed by things, I think. It was
Yeah.
the era of selling out as an idea and
When we first
I
started to get irony poisoned. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I think it's a bit of that. It's a bit of
Mhm.
that, isn't it? Yeah, just put the green tights on and have a nice time.
Yeah.
Come
They
on.
look comfortable.
Give the
Yeah.
people what they want.
Yeah. And I did like him and Marion's relationship. I think they were a significant, they were a compelling romantic couple. Like
Mhm.
enough. I think with everything going on. There's a lot going on, but I think there was enough of them that I could like believe their relationship.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they're no Fanny and Little John, but who
No,
is?
yeah,
Who
who
is?
is? And I think if we talk about our antagonist, I think the sheriff is again, is in a different movie, but I love the movie he's in.
He's
He's the
fun.
MVP of this. He is the MVP of this, I think.
He's having a
Yeah,
good time with it. Yeah.
yeah, he's swirling around in capes, he's just hamming it up, and he's being kind of hot while he does it. I'm like, great.
Hmm.
And I'm not
I had
usually the one who's like, oh, I love the villain. Like that's so if I love that means it's like they're good.
Properly. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm always taken in by a witch, so I love anyone who's got a witch that lives in the basement. But I just love his performance. I think it is so broad
Yeah.
that everyone else is sort of struggling to keep up with him a little bit as
Yeah.
well. Like, I think Alan Rickman obviously was an incredible actor, but I don't think it's just because he's great. I think there's maybe something about direction here as well. Like, I think they maybe
Yeah.
should have just sat down and like half an hour, guys. Let's just figure out what film are we all in? Like, and
Yeah.
let's just we'll all be in the same one.
Oh, I forgot to talk about the defenestration. We were so excited to use the word. We forgot to talk about the Friar
Yeah.
Tuck pushes the bishop out the window because he's a sellout. And he
Yeah.
says, "Here's 30 pieces of silver to pay off your trip to hell." And I'm like, wow, a reference to the Lady Gaga song Judas.
Cute. But again, it feels like that last that final act, that is the film that Alan Rickman it has been in for the duration of it. Do you
Yeah.
see what I mean? And things like the defenestration, like they match the tone and the broadness and the bigness of that
Yeah.
Sheriff of Nottingham performance. So it feels like the the film takes its time setting things up and getting its wheels in motion. But because we get these glimpses or these moments of the Sheriff of Nottingham, which are so big early on, that it's like, what the hell? It just needed to be recalibrated so there was like more of that up front.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's uh he is the highlight really,
Yeah. I mean,
like
I
Alan.
think I guess getting into just kind of the final thoughts is I think this movie, what I like about it is how big it is and
Hmm.
dramatic and epic. And I feel like that's what a Robin Hood story is. It's not like a small, cute story. It's like a big, dramatic, just story about justice. And this movie definitely has some themes of privilege and some wow, we are progressive now themes. And I think in some of the bigness, like any kind of overall message gets sort of swallowed. Uh, but I don't, again, it doesn't need, I think sometimes now we tend to have like a speech about this is what the story is. And sometimes I like that, and sometimes I don't. So I guess I like that we didn't have Robin Hood at the end saying, Sheriff, you're bad because you only care about yourself and you never grew out of whatever. But it does seem like it does get kind of like what is this story about can be a little lost. But
I think I prefer it without though. Like I do think
yeah,
we're getting maybe to a point culturally where you have to look down the barrel of the camera at
and
the end
wink
and be
as the
like,
friar.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh gosh, yes. But I think we're getting to a point in culture where you kind of have to look down the barrel of the camera and say like, this was a film about justice, and this
Yeah.
guy was very bad.
Yeah. We
And
hanging a child isn't enough. You got to tell me.
it is not nice, you guys, to hang a child. Don't do it. But
Yeah.
I think we're I kind of like that it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
It sort of it trusts the audience a bit more than we would now, I think.
Yeah.
I think often the thinking now is like, oh, they're going to be on their phone, so you have to like and
Yeah.
like you have to make sure that they understand what this was about.
We're in the
Uh,
media literacy decline era where we need to, if we
yes.
don't say what it's about, people will be like, have all kinds of crazy
Yeah.
interpretations or be like, wow, this was
Yeah.
problematic because it depicted this. It doesn't matter how it depicted was negative and,
Mm.
everything was bad. I mean, and a great example is someone on TikTok saying Snow White is problematic, the original, because the evil queen tries to kill a child. And
Yeah.
people are like, well, she is called the evil queen. It's in her name.
Yeah.
It was nominative determinism that she would
Yeah.
kill a child.
Uh, but I guess the big question, uh, was that your fantasy? Two-part question. Is it an adventure you want to live out? Is it, uh, a movie you like? So let's start with Callum.
Okay.
Was this your fantasy?
This was not wholly my fantasy.
Okay.
It's not an adventure. I wouldn't care to live in Sherwood Forest. I wouldn't care to be, hamming it up in the castle. Well, actually,
You love
maybe I
the
wouldn't mind.
forest.
I love the forest, but just
Not
not
this
in this
one.
context, not this one. Um, yeah, yeah, it's too smelly. I think this world for me to be living in. I'm
Mm.
not enjoying but then again, I would quite like the costumes. So I might time travel there for a couple of hours,
Yeah.
faff about in some robes for a bit, and then come straight home and get a nice, nice cup of tea and a sit down afterwards. That's
Shower.
probably the way
Yeah.
forward. Yeah, shower. Um, as a film, on our podcast, we have a rating system of gold, silver,
Hmm.
bronze, and mud. And I would give this movie a bronze. There are things that I like about it. There are ways in which this film is like a big dumb film. Uh,
Yeah.
complimentary and derogatory. But like you said, that bigness is that there's a lot of kind of grandeur and good spectacle and like kind of cool stuff in it. Interesting choices. Again, sometimes the execution just doesn't entirely pay off. So it's a mixed bag for me, but there's enough for me to say that like I definitely enjoyed that final act. Um, yeah, it's not a never watch. I'd rewatch this on a Sunday afternoon at some point.
All right. So we got a
Semi
half
my
point.
fantasy.
Semi your
Yeah.
fantasy, your semi fantasy. Michael, what do you think?
In terms of like whether I'd want to live this adventure, I'm not that folklore evermore girl. Like I don't live the cottagecore fantasy. I could be the witch in the basement. Like I think I
Yeah.
could be her. That would be my version of living this. But
Instead
no,
of dominoes, you'd have pink Power Ranger figures that you'd be
Yeah.
throwing about.
yeah, I would.
Just running around screaming prophecy.
I mean, that's a lot of what I do already. Like, but no, I could see myself living in Sherwood Forest in the Ewok village with. But I think I would be good friends with Fanny. I think we would get on. I think we would
Yeah.
have a laugh dancing around the fire and like I don't know, making
Yeah.
stews and things.
Watching a
Uh,
hanging.
Watching hangings. Listen,
Yeah.
I think it would be exciting.
True crime. The true crime of the
Yes.
day was watching hangings.
Happening in front of you. In terms of whether this is my fantasy, I do love a 90s blockbuster. I do love I love the scale of them and the scope of them and the ambition of them. And I think this is such an ambitious film that I really admire. And it is that kind of Sunday afternoon vibe.
Yeah.
Like if this was on TV, if this was on ITV2 in the UK, I would sit and watch this, probably with my dad. Like that
Yeah.
vibe of like we would watch this if I was at
Yeah.
my parents' house. He'd be standing in the doorway of the between the kitchen and the living room because my dad can't sit and watch a film and he can't let you know that he wants to watch it, but he
Oh,
still wants to
classic.
watch
Yeah.
it.
That's why I used to watch Downton Abbey back in the day. Yeah, I'm gonna say this is my fantasy because as much as like afterwards I could look back and be like, some of this wasn't good or didn't make sense. Most of the time we're watching, I was just like, I'm having fun. I like it. It's big. This is my so far of the Robin Hoods I've watched, my favorite. Well, I don't know if it'll hold that title, but I definitely prefer it to. I love Taron Egerton, but I prefer it to that movie and the Disney version because it just is so big and it feels how Robin Hood should feel in that bigness. Um, and again, crazy choices, but I'm like, let's go. I think if I want to live it out, I'm gonna say yes. I love when things are not complicated and there's an obvious bad guy that I can fight. He's trying to hang kids. It's pretty easy to be like, nope, we're not, we're against him. And yeah, I just love this kind of larger than life world. I don't think I'd be Robin Hood though. I'd probably end up being someone annoying like Will Scarlet, but you know, or
You could be
the
Fanny.
I could be Fanny.
Do you know, like you mentioned seeing Superman earlier, and one thing that I really appreciated about this Superman film, this new
Yeah.
Superman film, is that he's a hero and he's like a big, dumb, nice guy in it.
Yes. That's what I loved
Uh,
about it. Yeah.
And I really responded to that. He's like a big, dumb, nice guy that goes and fights the really bad guy. And we know he's a bad guy because he's killing children. And like, I think
Yeah.
we maybe need more of that in culture. So I think
Yeah.
I appreciate this Robin Hood for that
Yeah.
element as well. Like by the time he sort of by the time he's sort of washed himself in the lake and we've seen the butt double and stuff like that,
Yeah.
he's sort of Robin Hood at this point and
Yeah.
he's a good guy
He's
and
reborn. Yeah. He's
yes, yes.
baptized. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I really appreciate that element of it, and I
Yeah.
wish I think we're maybe moving more towards that culturally because at this point we need it. But I like
Yes.
that it was there then as well.
Yeah, in some ways we deconstructed good and evil so much that now people can just like be blatantly evil and we're like, ooh, at
Yes.
least they're honest about it. You're like, no, you're just this means you know
Yeah.
you're being bad.
Yeah.
It's like it's nice to be like, I think we can all should all be able to firmly say we shouldn't kill kids. I just think we should all feel comfortable saying that's wrong.
Yeah, I think it's time to reconstruct good
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
evil.
bring them back. Bring them back. Uh Yeah, so that's why this movie was my fantasy. But if people want more fantasy content, where can they follow Once Upon a VHS and learn all about you cover a lot of movies from, big classics like The Dark Crystal to FR07, oh,
FR07 is just that is yeah, deranged. Some very
deranged.
strange films that we've covered on the podcast.
Yes.
So yeah, so feel free to check us out. Podcast in all the usual places you would find a podcast. Once Upon a VHS. You can also get us on Instagram and Blue Sky on at Once Upon a VHS, and we're also now on Patreon. We're doing
Ooh.
Patreon exclusive bonus episodes where we're talking about fantasy TV series of the 80s and 90s, as well as pre and post 80s and 90s fantasy movies too. So yeah, some lots of goodies up there. But yeah, would love
Our
to. Oh, go on.
our next series, where we have these sort of vaguely themed series. Our last one was about heroes, and our upcoming one, for fans of The Witch in the Basement, our upcoming one is about witches. So there'll be lots of things you'd expect in that series, and then some maybe slightly off the beaten track,
Mhm.
witchy 80s and 90s films.
Very exciting. Season of
Yeah.
the Witch.
The
Season of
season
the
of the
Witch.
witch.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yes. So please check them out. Give them a follow. I think if you like us, you'll definitely like them. And you can find us at Not My Fantasy Pod on Instagram and I think still the TikTok. And you can find us, wherever you're listening here, Spotify, YouTube. If you are on YouTube, hello, how are you? Please smash that like button.
Or use an arrow, put a camera on the arrowhead so that it flies into your computer and it's like videos you smashing that like button. Actually, don't do that because you'll
You're gonna break your
destroy your
screen.
This
computer.
sounds
Yeah,
very
don't
confusing.
don't
Yeah.
do that. Just smash that like button and
Yeah.
subscribe.
Smash it like the sheriff and his harem of women.
Oh dear.
Uh and hit that bell notification so you get notified whenever we upload a new video. And please give us a review, leave a rating, let us know what you think, what you enjoy. I live for constant feedback
Give them
and
5 stars. Give Not My Fantasy 5 stars.
please, it'll
Subliminal message.
yeah, it'll help me feel better about myself. And tune in next time where we're talking about this is in the works, but we're talking about the Robin Hood spoof, Robin Hood Men in Tights,
Ooh,
with the fairy tellers, Jeff and Katrina. So that
exciting.
we're in talks. Our people are talking to their people. It should be happening soon. And keep sending thoughts and prayers for our podcasting for Hannah's life. Even though this sheriff is kind of hot, we still want to free her from the Nottingham
Yeah,
jails, get her
definitely.
out. I don't
She's
trust him
getting
around
menaced
women.
by Mortiana. Like
Yeah.
Hannah, honestly, like Mortiana and her talons. Like it's
Yeah.
just causing havoc.
Causing havoc. I feel like they'd get along too at the same time. I feel like she'd be like, okay, stop swinging your nails. Show me how to read dominoes and egg blood, and we'll have fun. So yeah, tune in next time for that. And thank you for listening. And thank you, Michael and Callum, for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for
having
having me.
us.
Yes, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you,
Great.
Alan.
I've had a lot of fun too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.